We lose trials.
They want her so bad, it seems like they will lie, cheat, and steal to save face at this point.
It just seems more prominent in Massachusetts because of these high-profile cases.
The O'Keefe family has now brought in a California attorney to help them in their civil case against Karen Reed.
But will it make a difference?
You lost. And you know what you did.
In the last hearing in Karen Reed's civil case, the civil case against Karen Reed, there were a half a dozen at least attorneys on her behalf. Well, the O'Keefes have now been successful in bringing a California attorney in to help them in their case. I'm attorney Andrew Myers, and joining me today is California attorney Yoli Medina. Hey, Yoli, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm just wondering, that's the big question. We're going to get into who this attorney is. Attorney Bibi Fell is her name. We're going to get into her background, and we're going to get into whether it makes a difference. But what are your initial thoughts when you heard this news?
Well, my initial thought was that maybe she is going to be of assistance with regard to the bars, the case against the bar that sold the alcohol to Karen Reed. That was my initial thought.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because she does have some experience in that area. She's been practicing law for a little bit more than 20 years. She has quite a background. In fact, why don't we let her tell us her background and tell our audience, because I've heard people read a resume, but she addressed young lawyers at a trial lawyer seminar at Pepperdine University there in California, and she was only too happy to tell them about her background.
Over the course of my career, I've held several different jobs. My first job was at an insurance defense firm. It was okay. My next job was at Baker McKenzie, handling big litigation, bet the company litigation for Fortune 500 companies. It was incredibly intellectually stimulating,
Baker McKenzie is a huge law firm. It's based out of Chicago, but it has 71 different offices all over the world. So I guess, a great job. She could have stayed there doing corporate law for the rest of her life. But, she's saying that this trial law bug bit her and she just felt it. And that's what she's really dug into.
I found it a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, I was making a lot of people a tiny bit of money. And so while I loved what I was doing and was having a lot of fun doing it, I didn't feel personally satisfied with my career choice when I went home at night. So I started doing plaintiff's work. And for me, for my personality, it fit. There are some people, some of my colleagues, excellent lawyers, excellent trial lawyers. If they got a call on a Friday at 7 p.m. from a client, they would just about die. My clients have my cell phone number. They call me Friday night, they call me on the weekends. I feel like I have the honor of holding somebody's hand through the most difficult part of their life.
That takes dedication to allow people to call you on a Friday night and to allow them to, have your life pretty much in their hands. I don't know. What do you think about that one, Yoli?
Well, yeah, she sounds like she's passionate and dedicated about what she's doing as a plaintiff attorney. My clients have my cell phone, but nowadays that's pretty much routine, I think.
Yeah.
But, for plaintiff's attorneys anyway. But she seems like she's passionate about what she's doing.
So let's take a look at some of the cases that she's handled. Here she is, Attorney Bibian, I guess they call her Bibi Fell. She's a San Diego, California trial lawyer. The first bullet point is a $5.3 million settlement in a wrongful death case, and that's important because that's what the case against Karen Reed boils down to. It's a wrongful death case with a couple of other counts attached to it, even though one was dismissed. The biggest one here is a $105 million verdict in a medical fraud case. She served as the lead trial counsel. $15 million wage and hour class action settlement, $5 million settlement in a medical malpractice case, another $5 million settlement for a boy who was hit while riding a bicycle, a $1.8 million settlement in a medical malpractice case, and $1.3 million settlement in a drunk driving case. So that's her background. And, you know, she's probably handled a ton of other cases, but those are the big ones. And, you know, that's really nothing to slouch at.
No, it's not. Although one of them is a verdict, the others are settlements. And the settlements, I would say, are impressive because for medical malpractice anyway, because they're hard to settle. And at least for the 5 million settlement in a medical malpractice case, that's very impressive. And the $1.8 million settlement in the medical malpractice case is impressive because those are very hard to settle. You have to really have good experts and know that you need good experts.
You're absolutely right about that. Medical malpractice cases are extremely difficult to settle, largely because the medical provider, you know, pretty much has to sign off on it, and they do not want to acknowledge liability. They just don't.
Right.
None of us want to admit that we made a mistake, but depending on how many of those they have, their license can be at the stake. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. They've got to have their ducks lined up in a row. They've got to have experts that are just, you know, totally impeccable. None of this, you know, lying about your working on a bachelor's degree for 18 years, like we saw in the Karen Reed criminal case. You know, they've got to be.
I still can't believe that, Andrew.
A lot of people can't believe it. It leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. You know, I see other content producers still mentioning that, and well, here we are, but we kind of fell into it. I see other content producers still hammering away at that, and you know, that brings up an interesting question. It's a little bit of a sidetrack before we talk about Bibi a little bit more. But I think it's a valid question to wonder if the O'Keefes would dare to use the same experts that the Commonwealth used. I mean, they were awful. They were just, you know, worse than awful. And will Karen Reed's defense attorneys, will they use Andrew Rentschler and the other experts that said there was no collision, a car did not hit John O'Keefe? So, you know, that's a good point.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens when the expert disclosures come, right? We'll see who they're using.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the O'Keefes would be crazy to use the experts that the Commonwealth used because it didn't work for the Commonwealth, and why repeat a mistake?
And that was a higher burden, mind you. There was a higher burden that they had to meet, and they didn't meet it. So I wouldn't trust them with trying to meet a lower burden.
Yeah, you know, we've talked about this before, but I don't know. Sometimes I get into conversations with people here and there, and it's hard for them to understand the difference. And they tell me, "Well, that's wrong. If Karen Reed won in the criminal case, they shouldn't even be allowed to bring a civil case." And I may well agree with the idea behind that, but it happens all the time because of what you mentioned. The burdens are different in the criminal case. The state or the Commonwealth or whoever the prosecutors are face the burden of proving each and every element of every crime beyond all reasonable doubt. So the football analogy is taking it down into the end zone, whereas in the civil case, it's only a preponderance of the evidence. It's more likely than not. They only have to drag the ball to the 51-yard line. So,
and the perfect example is O.J. Simpson. I mean, he was acquitted of, you know, taking the lives of his ex-wife and her friend. But in the civil case, there was a civil judgment against them. They won the civil case, and that's a perfect example of how these things work. And the civil case was the wrongful death in the OJ case.
So now, Bibi Fell, spoke to it looked like law students, but also young attorneys that wanted words of wisdom from someone who has achieved some success. And I thought that she made a remarkable admission that any trial attorney with any kind of trial experience would make. And I found it remarkable that she said this.
Resilience in practice also means experiencing failures. Anyone who has tried cases will tell you that we lose trials. We win great verdicts, and it's a huge celebration. And I think my number of friends on Facebook jumped up like 1,000 people when I got that 9-figure verdict. But we lose them too. And it's not just that we lose cases we should lose. The most heartbreaking losses, the ones I think about the most even now, are the ones that I think the jury just got it wrong. Because I wonder, what could I have done differently? Every great trial lawyer has those experiences.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And as much as we don't like to talk about it, and as much as I wouldn't be sitting here right now if I hadn't had more successes than losses, there's no trial attorney that can say he won every single case, unless he only tried 1 or 2 cases in his life. I mean, even Perry Mason, I think he lost 1 case. I think they had him lose 1 case. So anyhow, I know that there are a lot of people in our audience that hope that this is the next loss for her. My big question is, all right, she's a big gun. They're bringing her in from California. She has these $1 million settlements and the one huge verdict. But will it really make a difference? Will it really make a difference? I mean, well, let me ask you first. Will it make a difference that they have a new attorney?
It might, well, I think what will make a difference is not so much how many attorneys or how many good attorneys you have, but the experts that they're going to get. Again, if they're unable to get an expert to establish that a collision occurred, then it's going to be hard to establish that without an expert because nobody saw the crime. But you also have to have good attorneys who are able to cross-examine the plaintiff's experts and get them to agree to certain things and try to make the case. But again, the burden is lower. And like I said, I think it might make a difference with Bibi being on the case with regard to the bars and their selling of liquor. But again, that has to be proven at least to the preponderance of the evidence. So perhaps her skills might be useful in that area. But she does have personal injury experience insofar as drunk drivers and hitting, she represented a child that got hit by a bicycle. So, I don't know if it will make a difference. I mean, she seems impressive and she's probably going to do a good job, but that doesn't mean you win, right?
I agree 100%. I mean, the facts are the facts. You could bring in, I hope people in our audience remember or read about the O.J. Simpson trial. It was called the trial of the century, and they had what they called the O.J. Simpson Dream Team. They had Johnny Cochran and they had Alan Dershowitz back in Boston, listening and giving them advice to mark a record so that there would be an appeal if he lost. They had Barry Scheck. They had a ton of attorneys that just, I remember watching that trial. And, it was like a college classroom full of attorneys. My feeling is that the O'Keeffes could bring in that O.J. Simpson Dream Team, even though some of them are no longer with us. The facts are the facts. You can have the best attorney in the world. And maybe this Bibi Fell is the best attorney around or one of the top 5 attorneys in the country. But the facts are the facts. I make no apology for that. I mean, if the ARCA experts started out working for neither side in the case, neither the prosecution or the defense, and they came to the conclusion that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car and a car did not hit John O'Keefe, very meticulously and carefully and scientifically, the OJ Dream Team, they could bring back Johnny Cochran, and I don't see that it would make a big difference. I don't know.
Well, the scratches on John O'Keefe's arm, those injuries that he had on his arm, just kind of negates. I mean, something happened, but was it a car accident? I don't know. I never saw that and I guess the experts the prosecution side in the criminal trial against Karen Reed, both trials, they never proved that they never proved beyond a reasonable doubt that there was a collision.
No, they didn't. And there are other experts like Dr. Russell and Dr. La Posada almost made light of that fact that they never proved there was a collision. So why was Hank Brennan, droning on about, well, did you know how far away the car was? Did you take into account the speed of the car? No, why would I take that into account if there was no collision? So all they need is to have, the Karen Reed team, which does now include Elizabeth Little and Alan Jackson. They just need to hammer that. I mean, you're right that it's a lower burden, but the facts are the facts. So I don't know. We're going to be right back with I have some more thoughts about that, and I'm sure you do. But let's go back to that. Let's go back to those characters in the Karen Reed criminal trial, the second one. They're going to help us drum up some subscriptions.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Ask it differently. I'm going to allow that.
Well, you know now because you follow. You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
Yes. I was not paying to any social media.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
Sorry, I have just a few more questions.
It's denied.
I was not paying to any social media.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Hank and Lucky. Thank you very much. We don't try and sell you mugs or T-shirts or kitchen aprons or anything else. We just want you to subscribe, and it is free. So my next question, and call me any names you want to call me, but my question was this. Do you think that Bibi Fell, and I'm not taking anything away from the fact that she's an accomplished attorney, an accomplished trial attorney who has enough humility to admit that she has suffered some losses, but she has a huge resume of wins. Do you think the fact of her gender had anything at all to do with it? I mean, it's Karen Reed. It's Karen Reed, a middle-aged, attractive woman. Say whatever you want about me, but I said it, with a bunch of, men against her. Not a good look. It's really not a good look. And I'm just wondering if Ms. Fell's, in addition to her incredible resume, I'm not taking that away, but do you think her gender had something to do with it?
Well, I would hope not, but that could play a role in it. But there are also other great female attorneys that they could have chosen who I know that are, they've reached a lot of publicity and handle high profile cases. I don't know Bibi Fell. The name sounds vaguely familiar, but I didn't know of her before, she came aboard on this case. Maybe 20 years ago, I would have been more in the know, but right now I'm not, I mainly deal with malpractice, and I haven't heard of her in medical malpractice circles. So,
Okay.
So I mainly deal with the defense attorneys, so I know more defense attorneys than I do plaintiffs. But I don't know if her gender played a role. I mean, I would hope that it didn't, but I have no idea if it did or didn't.
Okay, crazy question on my part, and slam me all you want down in the comments. It's all right. We get it every week anyhow, so say whatever you want. But I have one more crazy question, and that is, do you think the fact that Alan Jackson is a California attorney had anything at all to do with the O'Keefe saying, gee, we're going to bring a California attorney in too? Or is that purely a coincidence?
Well, that might have something to do with it. Maybe Bibi Fell knows Alan Jackson. Maybe they have worked on previous cases. I know she doesn't do criminal, or she was never a prosecutor, but you never know. It probably has something to do with it. California, and Jackson's from California.
It's a crazy coincidence. It's really a crazy coincidence because Like yourself, I mostly meet defense attorneys, plaintiffs' attorneys. I know who they are because I read about their verdicts in our Lawyers Weekly. So I know mostly the defense attorneys. But at the same time, Massachusetts has some great attorneys. We have a group called the Massachusetts Academy of Trial Attorneys, which I used to be much more active in than I am now. It's kind of the Commonwealth's version of what used to be called the American Trial Lawyers Association. It's now called the Association for Justice. But when I was younger and fewer years out of law school, I met some fantastic attorneys. And, they were only, like Ms. Fell, they were only too happy to share knowledge with younger attorneys that, are just learning the ropes and want to know some tricks so they don't have to practice for 90 years before they learn the tricks. So my point is that there are a lot of great attorneys in Massachusetts. So I don't know. I really don't know.
If I might add,
Yeah.
maybe the reason that they chose her is because she possibly can handle the media, in terms of a high profile case, she can handle it. And, that's probably one of the reasons that they chose her, because they think that she can likely handle all the media attention, whether it be negative, because that a lot of people are going to criticize her for whatever, and that she can handle it gracefully. Maybe that's
That may well be true because Alan Jackson certainly has a great presence in front of the TV camera. We know that. Not to take anything away from any of the other attorneys that were on Karen Reed's criminal defense team. But he did have an excellent presence. He has a lot of experience with it. Just from the little bit that I saw of her addressing the trial lawyers conference at Pepperdine. Just a little bit that I saw of her addressing the students at Pepperdine, she obviously has a great presence and a great ability to speak. So I don't know, that may be, it's hard to believe that they would bring an attorney in just for that, because the most important thing to any attorney, I don't care what side you're on, criminal or civil, most important thing to an attorney is within the bounds of ethics, winning. I don't care who you are. You want to win. You're investing all that time and energy and, frankly, brain cells in an important part of your life. You don't want to go through all that if your heart isn't into it. So I don't know.
right.
I really don't know. I don't know if it's that big of a development. I just don't know if it's going to make that big of a difference. I mean, she already has her team. I don't know if I respectfully agree with you that they brought her in for the bars, C.J. McCarthy's and the Waterfall, because a lot of people, I don't know if I agree with this either, but a lot of people are saying that those bars, because they're basically insurance defense attorneys, they'll settle out. They'll just settle the case out because they don't want to be dragged through all the discovery that's required, the interrogatories, the request for production, requests for admissions, the depositions, sitting there through all the depositions that have to be taken, whether they're a party to it or not. So that's the going thought, that the bars will settle out. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's what people are saying.
Well, the bars can only settle if the plaintiff accepts the settlement. And,
Well, yeah.
And so, if they want to settle out for a low amount of money, I don't think Bibi Fell would advise her clients to take a low settlement, although I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But it seems to me that she has defendants that have big pockets.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, I would like to know whether she recovered any of that money that she lists. I'm sure she did.
That's a good point.
Because a lot of times you can get a verdict that's, $20 million, but did you get any of it?
Right. Right.
Are you still chasing after it? Even hospitals. I mean, I have a settlement against a hospital. They're paying in payments and they can't even pay on time. And this is a hospital that has hospitals throughout California. They're self-insured. And so, I mean, that's another thing is that she seems to go for deep pockets, which that's what you do, but at the same time, deep pockets don't always pay. And maybe she's trying to get, to the deep pockets. And, Karen Reed might have future earnings with movies documentaries. And maybe
Absolutely.
she's going for that. But to me, it seems like she knows what she needs to do to get to the deep pockets,
Yeah, well, she has
And
excellent advice. She has excellent legal advice, and there's no question about that. So
yeah,
it's really the battle of the titans. Unlike the criminal trials that really were not the battle of the titans. I really don't like to disparage other Massachusetts attorneys, but I mean, Adam Lally, what can I say? And then Hag Brennan, again, what can I say? People that watch the trials know exactly what's in my mind, and I don't have to vocalize it. But it was, let's just say this, it was not the battle of the titans. Now the civil trial is shaping up like that with Ms. Fell and Alan Jackson and Elizabeth Little. I was trying to think of a better thumbnail title than the Battle of the Titans. I was trying to think of a better, and the only thing I could think of is going way back to when I was a little kid, King Kong versus Gorgo or something like that, a big boxing match, because it is that. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I feel badly for the O'Keefes. They lost their son and brother. I just don't know what the answer is with regard to getting them the compensation that they need, because I don't know if the civil case is going to fly, but we'll just have to see.
Oh, I feel badly for them too. I agree with you 100%. It's just, a horrible thing. I don't hear the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office nor the Attorney General's Office in Boston saying, okay, so it wasn't Karen Reed. 2 juries have said that. Let's go out and reinvestigate it. Is it too late for that because the original police bungled the case so badly? Are they going to make any kind of an effort at all? Has the trail gone too cold? I mean, I've gotten nasty comments below because I do have some compassion for the O'Keefes, but that's just the way it is. I feel the way I feel. I've gotten nasty comments from both sides. There was one really anti-Karen Reed guy that early on when we first started covering this case, way back in the early days before the first trial even, there was this guy that would just berate all of my commenters. And it's the only person I ever had to remove. I actually removed him because he would, any pro-Karen Reed comment, he would say something nasty. Then he'd move on to the next one. Then he'd move on to the next one. Then he'd move on to the next one. So I just, so they're out there. They're out there. We do have 5 comments. And do you want the odds or evens this week?
I'll take the evens.
Okay, so this is Tam the Mandays, I guess. Oh, this goes back to the episode we did previously where the attorneys in Cosgrove in the Turtle Boy case, kind of working it in the background through the edges, kind of sneakily filed a motion to be able to extract all the information from Karen Reed's phones that were seized in January of 2024, not the phones that were originally seized, but the phones that were taken in January 2024. He wants to extract it and go through it all. So Tam the Mandays says, give her her phone and allow her to use the exact same technology that Higgins used to give them her text files. Good for the Commonwealth, good for the victim and Miss Reed. And we all know what Mr. Higgins did with his phone, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Little trip down to the Cape Cod military base and took the SIM card out and threw it and the phone in the trash.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Falling Feather. Maybe the DA's office figures they and the McAlberts will never be off the hook until Karen is locked up. Fast, by the way, before someone cracks under the guilt or gets nailed in something else and offers info in a deal. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting comment, and I've heard other people say the same thing. Will somebody crack? Will somebody be served a bad ice cube some night at a bar, and they'll finally break down and admit it? Or, who knows? Interesting comment. Number 3, Melissa, Florida. I wouldn't trust them to manipulate the data that was downloaded if they did extract it now. They want her so bad it seems like they will lie, cheat, and steal to save face at this point. I have been watching 2 other cases over this past week, and the tech people all spoke about hash values that verified their downloads. Remember, Alan Jackson asked for that, and the Commonwealth acted like it was something impossible. And I do remember that. I do remember that the defense attorneys, Alan Jackson and David Yannetti, asked for the data that accompanies the video, and the judge looked at them like they were asking for the moon, the wind, the stars, the sun, and it's like, no, in 2025 or even 2024, that's standard stuff. The metadata is standard stuff. And so, I don't know. Good comment. Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, this is from Rebecca Burns. I am from Massachusetts, and I think the whole thing is absurd. Boston, Canton, and the Mass State Police have made us all look like a corrupt state, which is truly unfortunate. Many of our police departments that continue to employ old school policing where they were in cahoots and breaking laws thinking they were above the law still exist. Also, don't forget the people who make a ton of money love to tell us working class poor to pay more taxes, and they shouldn't have to pay after a certain amount. So the burden of taxes is nothing to them at the low level. Massachusetts government loves to spend money.
And having watched Massachusetts government for years and years and years, that's true. It's just they blow money out of their ears like it's nothing. It's just they could care less. They really could. So, good comment. Thank you, Rebecca. And our last comment, number 1, is John D. Hines, I guess. In their never-ending contest with hackers, Apple continuously updates their software to make it more secure. Gray Key is currently unable to break into the i operating system 17.3, which was the current version when Karen's phones were seized going on 2 years ago. That's why they need her passcode. Okay. Well, I mean, they've had those phones since January 24th of 2024. I mean, isn't it so obvious that they're playing games that they didn't do anything with them until now? Isn't that so obviously phony and bogus and just bad and unprofessional? And my thesaurus is running out of words. But I mean, there's no words. There's just no words for it in my mind.
And they brought these charges or these allegations, they brought them to a grand jury and they provided evidence, which wasn't enough to indict Karen Reed. So I would have thought that before going to the grand jury, they would have gotten all the data from her phone and presented it.
Well, yeah, just think of the timeline. What you're saying is so, it's so clear. Think of the timeline. They got the phones January 24th of 2024. Then they went to the grand jury in March of 2024. So they had a good 6 weeks, 2 months to do it, and they didn't do it. I mean, was Proctor looking for whatever he was looking for on other phones, or what were they doing? Was Adam Lally just kind of running around in circles, not doing his discovery on the other cases that we've talked about, the Walsh case and the other cases? It's just, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's just, it is a bad look for the Commonwealth. I just ask people to not paint with a broad brush. I said that last time. It's a great state. It's a great Commonwealth. You can't find a better city than Boston to go to college in or grad school. There's just so much happening. There's so much hopping in Boston. The North Shore is beautiful. The western part of the state is beautiful. For my taste, the Cape has a little bit more traffic than I'd like to have to deal with if I'm going to relax. But a lot of people love the Cape. My point is that Massachusetts is a great state. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater that Massachusetts is no good. I'd never go there, because it's a great state. It's just that they're like any state. There is corruption. So.
Yeah, and it just seems that the corruption is highlighted. Well, I shouldn't say that. It just seems more prominent in Massachusetts because of these high-profile cases.
Yeah. Absolutely. So just trying to think what kind of an emoji, if anybody has been with us through the whole episode today, I can't think of what emoji we should do. Can you think of one?
Something having to do with lawyer.
Lawyers, California lawyers, trial lawyers. Well, we could always default down to our usual, legal emoji, which would include like the scales of justice and the gavel. So I guess I go with that. We've done it before. We'll do it again. And we're running out of emojis. If anybody has an idea for new emojis for next week, let us know. But answer these questions, please. Will the new attorney make a difference? Did the fact that Alan Jackson was from California have anything to do with the fact that the new attorney for the plaintiffs, the O'Keefe family, is also from California? And my bad question, did her gender have anything to do with it? Tell me that I shouldn't even be asking that question, or tell me, whether you agree or disagree. Any closing thoughts, Yoli?
No, other than this is going to be a very interesting trial to watch, the civil trial, if it does go to trial. It's going to be interesting. Good attorneys.
I can't see a case like this settling. So I would bet. Well, I get in trouble when I make bets, don't I?
Yeah, you're losing. Even CJ.
Yeah, well, I would, if anybody wants to take the bet, I would bet against this case settling, and I would bet that there will absolutely be a trial. Probably won't happen until 2027. Because if all these parties stay in, and if all of the, if Karen Reed is allowed to bring all the other people and claims that she says she wants to bring, yeah, we're talking 2027. But anyhow, Yoli, thank you.
Thanks for
Have a
having
good
me.
one. Okay, until the next one, we'll see ya.
Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.